State of Crypto 2024 vibe check. How would you guys summarize the vibe of this year? Eddy, let's start with you.
I'd say cautiously optimistic, a little opaque for outsiders. There's no one clear signal that I think's come to the surface, but for those of us tracking how things have developed and evolved in the industry, definitely positive.
Daren, anything to add?
Yeah, I think this report is kind of coming out at a good, interesting time. Obviously, we're just a few weeks out from the election. We'll talk a little bit about some of the policy stuff that's in the report. Also, there are just a lot of narratives in the crypto industry right now that I think, has created some noise. And I think what we want to do with this report is to, really take a step back, look at all the data that we have and kind of paint crypto, hopefully in the right light based on everything that's going on.
And who would you guys say that this is the target audience for this report? Who is the marginal person that you're hoping actually opens up this report and learns something? Because, me and Ryan, we understand data like this. We look for data like this every single week. But I think we're trying to get a new audience to read this report. Who's the target audience here?
That's a great question. I think in our minds, first, there's so much in the report that I hope everybody can pick and choose and find something that's interesting to them that they think captures the last year. But I'd say in crypto, we have so much going on, so much is transparent, but so much is hard to understand that I think the target audience for us is really mainstream people who kind of want a big picture view of what's happening in crypto, but also regulators, also influencers, whoever's looking at the space and trying to get that wide picture. Entrepreneurs are usually so specialized in their area and they're familiar with everything that's going on day to day, week to week. That's like where they live. But sometimes it's really valuable to take a step back and look at everything that's really happened. It's really easy. I think you guys would agree that it's really easy to take for granted how much progress actually happens when you look year over year. Sometimes it's in areas you didn't expect. Sometimes it's exactly what you were hoping for. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. This year, the last year, 18 months, I'd say, there's been pretty remarkable progress in infrastructure. That is why I think the top line in my mind is that crypto activity from a variety of different angles is at an all-time high, right? Mm-hmm. Depending how you measure it, and I can say more about different ways we get to that. But that's only possible with meaningful infrastructural improvements across the space. And we have really, really seen that. Although we are still hoping to see really mainstream key applications that reach, the total average user, which, will be great. We've seen a lot of the prerequisites for that snap into place, and things have gotten a lot better, a lot cheaper, a lot faster. And I think all those things together is what paints this optimistic picture.
So while we're still on the vibe check here, just before we get into some of the slides specifically, so you said, Eddy, you're cautiously optimistic, crypto activity at an all-time high. Let's just go back to the 2023 version of this report. And can we just talk about the vibe in 2023 and the diffs? As I recall, I think we were still sort of recovering from a pretty brutal bear market. What was the state of 2023, if you could kind of summarize that, and then just maybe talk about the diff and what's different this year?
Yeah, I think hard to say. It's so hard to time travel yourself into the past. But I think with 2023, we saw a bunch of interesting technical improvements on the horizon, right? That's what we were hoping for. I remember in 2023, much awaited in an Ethereum world, EIP 4844, people really, really wanted to see that. The merge had gone well, and so some key obstacles were out of the way. If you recall, I think 2023 is the last time we heard people really explicitly complaining about, for example, Ethereum's energy usage. That sure went away. Have you heard anybody?
No one talks about this,
right? No one talks about that, right? And why? Because the problem was totally and completely solved, and probably won't come back, or definitely won't come back. So I think we were definitely recovering from the bear market. There were some interesting trends and developments, but I think what was top of mind was upcoming infrastructural improvements and some new experimentation. In early 2024, those improvements have really landed, not just 4844 and the growth of L2s and things like that in Ethereum world, but also new next generation of blockchains and their integration to the rest of crypto with bridges, with stable coins, better DApp infrastructure. All of those things have led to a proliferation of very high quality block space. So the way I think about right now is that, unlike last year, we have that block space, and there's a little bit about that in the report, and we're just waiting for people to figure out what to do with it, right? We're back in a period, in my mind, we're back in a period of experimentation. You can launch a DApp for hundreds of dollars and see what happens. Obviously, there's development effort and auditing and all these things that are complicated, but at least on the gas side, the block space side, there are very, very easy ways and straightforward ways to get a new DApp into your users' hands for pennies on the dollar. And that allows for experimentation. Experimentation leads to new apps. So it's really a matter of time, in my mind, until we find all the interesting ways that entrepreneurs will and developers will consume that glut of high quality block space across blockchains.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time. If I recall, 2023 was, partially the state of crypto was us telling the world, hey, we're still building. It's not dead yet. We're still doing stuff over here. And now maybe 2024 is we're beginning to see the fruits of that labor as an infrastructure focus. I mean, Chris Dixon in the past has called this kind of like the high bandwidth era of crypto where we get really cheap block space. So let's start at maybe the beginning of this report, which is a perfect place to start in the foundation, and zoom out. And let's get the high-level story of how big crypto is today. And I think in one of these slides here, you've got a plot of internet users versus monthly active crypto addresses. And internet users from kind of the early 90s, and it shows sort of a chart up, and that's the line in green if folks are following with us on YouTube or Spotify video. And then we've got in orange monthly active crypto addresses. This is, of course, is in log scale. If it was linear scale, it's just like wouldn't look as pretty, would it,
Yep.
Daren? Can you tell us what we're seeing here? And I'm going to just maybe read the description before you illustrate this. Monthly active addresses hit an all-time high of 220 million, with growth reminiscent of early internet adoption. And for folks who can't see this on their screen, though, I encourage you to go check out the video. We look kind of neck and neck in crypto, at least in terms of active addresses, with the early internet. Is that what this is showing?
Yes, that's exactly
that's
what
right.
it's showing. And I think this is a very good starting point, right? I think if you zoom out, right, which is what this attempts to do here, I think it does show that we've continued to make progress. There are people using these blockchains, and the growth looks reminiscent of some of the early days of the internet. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that monthly active addresses is probably not the best measure of real crypto users. And in fact, in the coming slides, we do our best to unpack what's behind those addresses. We've also published a separate write-up that kind of goes into this topic in great detail. Eddy and I have spent a lot of time kind of trying to kind of filter out bots and come up with the real number of crypto users. But I think from a starting point and a zoomed out view, this trend line does look very similar to the early days of the internet. Monthly on-chain usage is an intentionally strict measure of crypto adoption, and I think there's a lot to be excited about with the overall trends here.
Okay, yeah. So the internet usage user proxy versus monthly crypto addresses. Of course, like we're all crypto users here. I bet people listening have multiple addresses, but I guess this is active crypto addresses. Maybe you could get into kind of the subtleties of this data point. Is this really measuring human beings, or is this sort of like a proxy that's a little bit distant from that?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to understand that this is a proxy. This is not a number of human beings. 220 is a number of addresses, not a number of human beings, right? There's a lot to unpack here. And like Daren mentioned, we have a post where we get into some of the nuances of how to interpret the different cuts that we use to try to get at overall activity and also to get at users. The way I think about these monthly active addresses now, they're just a measure of activity. Of course, in crypto, sometimes like other spaces, but especially in crypto, there can be incentive programs that encourage the spinning up of many addresses. One person could control hundreds or thousands of addresses. Now, of course, those incentive programs come and go, and the infrastructural capacity to absorb those extra addresses is continuing to grow. So I wouldn't say that we should totally discount the number of active addresses, but if that number is growing and other key indicators of genuine human use are growing with it, we can use them together to kind of get a view of how we're doing as an industry.
Very good. There's this one, space that's highlighted on the graph too, which is the 1 billion mark. Okay, and in 2005, we had 1 billion internet users. And I guess if we plot this back to the early 90s, I guess it's people have always asked this question: what year is it in internet terms? And according to this chart, it's looks like it's 1998 in crypto that year. So we're, a few years away from hitting 2005, which would be our 1 billion user mark, but we're right on track for that. One other way of measuring usage, and I don't know if you guys think this counts, is number of people that just hold crypto assets, which is different. This is what you're measuring is kind of active users on chain, right? Another way to sort of measure usage, if you consider holding crypto, using crypto, is the number of people who actually hold crypto. Is that a relevant data set that you guys have looked at? Why did you do on-chain addresses rather than just users holding crypto?
Well, so actually there is another slide where we do have the number of users just holding crypto. I think that should be slide 8 or so. But I want to make sure we have really clear is that when we hit 1 billion active addresses, we will still be well shy of 1 billion active users, right? Those are different numbers. And it's a little bit tempting, I know, to try to look at these lines and say like, oh, this is like we're replaying history rhymes and so on. I totally get it. Although I'd say there's reasons to believe that the adoption patterns will be quite different, right? On the one hand, crypto industry adoption should be a lot easier because it's just software, right? We don't fundamentally need to lay cables and so on, which was necessary for internet adoption. On the other hand,
we already have the internet. We can adopt via the internet.
Exactly right. And then, but then on the other hand, there have been meaningful regulatory headwinds, and additionally, there are competing internet services that already offer some of the things that crypto services want to offer. So I think it's very nuanced, and it's the purpose of the trend line is just to show what does very rapid growth look like? What does very rapid growth of web scale technologies look like? So we can kind of measure ourselves and get a sense of if there are huge meaningful differences. Regarding the number of crypto owners, this slide here for those watching shows the number of estimated global owners, monthly active addresses, and monthly mobile app users, which are all sort of declining in size, right?
Yeah, this is fascinating. This is showing 617 million estimated global crypto owners. So that's the ownership metric that I was talking about, and it's a superset of these other metrics.
Yeah, exactly right. And like for crypto owners, right, these are not monthly active users. This is a different set. These are just people that passively hold crypto. They
Dormant
may have never
users.
used.
We can call them dormant users.
Yeah, dormant users. They may have never used the blockchain, right? In fact, the likely pattern, I think, if we wanted to sketch like a median user, it would be someone who has a crypto exchange account of some type, or a simple crypto wallet, and they received somewhere. They purchased it. Maybe someone paid them. Maybe they're just holding some crypto assets, and that's it. They're not necessarily using the blockchain. They're not necessarily connecting to dApps, other things like that. Yeah, and that's the kind of biggest slice of people who we have a sense have interacted with crypto in some sense, no matter how simple it is.
I think if I'm a startup builder in crypto with a goal to get people on chain, this makes me very bullish. If there's 5 to 10% of crypto holders, people who already have crossed over the chasm to own a crypto asset, but they have not yet got on chain, that to me screams like an opportunity for my startup, my project, my protocol.
Yeah, it's like converting a funnel, right? I mean, you're converting people from the top of funnel down funnel.
Absolutely. And actually, if you look at there's another data point here, which is not on this slide, which is just the total number of internet users. And it's, something like 5+ billion. But if you look at the just total growth opportunity on a percentage basis of bringing people on chain, meaning converting the existing crypto owners into active crypto users, that opportunity is actually bigger than growing the whole pie of people who just simply buy and hold crypto, right? And so I think this data really presents the opportunity for the industry to re-engage some of these passive holders, that only, 5 to 10%, and actually kind of see how do we bring people on chain. I think this is one of the most surprising data points in the report for me, and presents, I think, what the real opportunity is for our industry.
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.